Hey everyone, Gordon Holman here. As you noticed, I started my own YouTube channel, and I was hoping that you could all join me in helping one another get some tips and insights on better understanding bass and how to catch them. I want to start this video about talking about the bass's nature. I think it's appropriate that I start sharing right off the bat principles that'll help you become a much better bass angler right off the get-go. Understanding the nature of a bass is in relation to any other animal in the wild. If you're a deer hunter, wild boar hunter, African safarist, understanding the nature of the animal will make you much better, much quicker, and put you on the animals or the fish much greater. Like understanding a deer, understanding their tracks, their scrapes, their rubs, their corridors, how they travel in and out from food to water. Same with the bass. Bass use corridors just like deer. You know, they move in and out off a structure, off of drop-offs. They have specific routes that they use day in and day out to travel, generally in close proximity to deeper water for safety if need be. For the nature of the bass, you must understand the survival needs of a bass. You got three principles of that: food, oxygen, and water. You know, any other animal, food, oxygen, water. No creature on earth can survive without it, frankly. But we understand each other as human beings much better, the nature of each other, better than we do any animal that we seek to pursue. And that's what the fault is with a lot of anglers. You know, a lot of anglers don't grasp the concept of, well, they were there yesterday, why ain't they there today? Well, you were there yesterday, and I know why you weren't there today. Anyways, let's get started here though. But the food now, you know, shad is not the primary forage. Can be the primary forage, but isn't the food by choice of a bass, whether it's a black bass, spotted bass, you know, white bass, with exception to a white bass, and smallmouth bass. You know, the preferred food source would be the crayfish, crawfish. And then, contrary to the belief, you know, everybody says, oh, you got to fish the riprap because that's where the crawfish are. No, that's where they sleep. That's not where they eat, and that's not where they're found, generally most of the time. You know, crawfish have movement patterns just like bass, just like deer, any other. You know, you understand that. It'll make you much better jig fisherman. Crayfish are more abundant and a much easier target when they're feeding on the phytoplankton and you know, feeding on the plants, you know, feeding on the zooplankton. They're easy targets for bass, and they're abundant. You know, at certain times in their routes, they're easy targets, and these bass know it. You know, so understanding this, that even the crayfish move in specific travel routes and are at specific times of the day also helps. Food patterns like shad. Get on the shad, get on the bass. You know, the bass are always nearby the food source, whether it's crayfish, you know, or shad. And if you know any given water that you're fishing, where these food sources are, you're going to catch more fish. Oxygen predicts a bass's movement and their location where they're at constantly. Any condition and every condition changes and can change oxygen content within the water above or below the thermocline. And a lot of it's based on heat conditions, cool conditions. Generally cool water, there's more bass because there's more oxygen. More vegetation within a lake, there's more bass because there's more oxygen produced from the vegetation. So you wouldn't really want to seek for bass in open water and it's 100 degrees outside and the water temperature is about 85 and there's no plant life around it. Your chances of catching a fish is going to be very minimal. And in the hotter parts of the days, like I said, the thermocline, the oxygen content is much greater because below the thermocline is cooler water. So if you're out and about in your boat and you're looking on your electronics, look in general mind, if you think about what time of the day it is, based on the phytozooplankton levels, or what level the zooplankton is during that specific time of the day, which is the primary forage of the baitfish, up or below the thermocline at that time, generally, you're going to find the bass near that area specifically. So if you find the baitfish, you find, in general, because the bass are going to have they're going to be positioning themselves in the general areas where the food is, where the crayfish and the shad are together, or any other abundant food within the region that they're living in it within the water. And as bass age, they're opportunistic feeders, but as they age, they become ambush experts. The older they get, the lesser the more metabolism they need. More protein they need in their diet to maintain the metabolism to grow at the rate they're growing at the size that they actually are. So as they get older, they seek to cover more often than the roamers do near the shorelines. Usually the younger, more immature fish. So the older fish and the bigger fish are opportunistic food feeders. So they put themselves in a position to be able to dart out to food within the food source. So they're at the food source. Knowing this is just another aspect of the nature of the fish. Okay, and knowing the oxygen level too as well. The oxygen will always predict where bass are going to be any time of the year based on temperature, based on vegetation, based on thermocline levels. So now the last one that's a factor is cover. You got to understand the cover. Like I said, bass are ambush fish, and they'll expel the least amount of energy to dart out after a fish or a crayfish. So they will position themselves and basically let the food come to them. And that's why it's so effective to find, flowing water within a river or a lake, a reservoir. All three of them, reservoirs, natural lakes, rivers, they all have flowing water in them, somewhere, somehow. And if you can get on the flowing water, that's like a dinner bell to bass. I mean, that's what makes Mark Rowe so effective with spoons. He knows how to use them effectively within the flowing water conditions. So again, understand the bass's nature, understand their food, their oxygen and their cover content, and become the bass. And you'll catch more fish, I guarantee you. So I hope this was helpful, and I'd like to see more of you in your comments on my YouTube page. If you have any questions, please leave them on my postings in Facebook, or even even on YouTube. G-Man Custom Lures. Folks, have a good day. Peace.